Hi, I'm Seth. If you're just joining me for the first time, this is the fourth video in this series. I'm building a blanket chest. As you can see, I've made a bunch of progress in the previous videos. I've built the base, I've built my front and back and two sides, and then I've also gone and resawn and made all the panels to be inserted. They are now pre-finished and ready to go. In this video, I'm going to start by taking this apart, getting these panels cleaned up, and actually get some joinery done. Right now this is just kind of a dry assembly, so I need to actually work out exactly what my joinery is going to be between these and get everything ready to go and get some of these rough edges cleaned up. For the next step of this, I'm back over here at the table saw. I cleaned up the bottoms of my panels with a hand plane. The issue is that the rails didn't come out exactly flush to the top of the stiles. There's just tiny inconsistencies, but it's enough that it catches my eye. And when I go to install the subtop on this or install these to the bottom, it'll be noticeable. There'll be a slight gap there. So I cleaned up the bottoms, and what I'm going to do now is I've got my fence set, so I'm just taking off like a 1/16 of an inch from my original dimensions on these. That'll be just enough to kiss the top of this all the way across, take out any inconsistencies, and give me a nice clean surface for my joinery, and at the same time making these panels all the exact same dimension. With a hand plane I can be just a little bit off on that, and I can still have something that's a little different panel to panel. Coming over here and cleaning it up at the table saw will take that out, and all I'll be left with will be some nice straight, clean surfaces, and everything will be consistent from one piece to the next. For my joinery for all the sides, I do have a couple options. This is a nice long grain to long grain connection here that I'm going to have from one side to the next. So I've got plenty of good glue surface. I have decided, however, to go in and put some biscuits in, primarily just for alignment and for ease of assembly. So I'm going to do that. I've kind of settled on 3 biscuits per side, and I've kind of measured them out. I think I'm going to go with like 4 inches, 8 inches, and 12 inches. So something maybe like that. I could probably even go 4, 8.5, and 13 would probably actually make more sense. 3 per. I've got to avoid this area up here. I've got to avoid this area down here. There's joinery there, so I'm just going to go with just a couple biscuits all the way around. The way I've got this set up to mark these is I've got my longer panels, my front and back, and the clamp right here up against the side, because the side panels, if you remember, are a little bit shorter or a little bit narrower to give the total of 3 inches across here. So I've got it set up, or I can come and I can mark it this way. I also need to pay attention to which side is which, so I've got to kind of figure out where I want my sides here. So these are the first 2 that I decided. I'm kind of calling this the spider side. Kind of looks like a spider to me. And then the front panel, which is that real highly figured panel, is over here. So this is going to be the most visible corner in the room that it's going to be sitting in. Not that the other side panel is any worse than this one. It's just as good. But so I'm going to kind of mark these where this will be the left side. This will be the front. And then I can go and mark for my joinery. Just wanted to talk about my setup here for a second. It looks like it's the same thing I had a second ago, and it is, with one key exception, and that's that I flipped these sides around. If I kept it how it is, I would have been cutting them on the wrong side. So this is the inside. I've only got my side panels up here just for reference, so that I have a nice big surface to keep this thing from going forward. Next up, I need to clean up the inside of all these panels. I've still got some epoxy and other stuff on there, and they just haven't been sanded since I've assembled them. So I need to get the insides nice and clean before I can assemble the main body of this chest. Literally no one will ever see this detail. Getting ready to cut the rabbet where the bottom will sit, and I don't know about you, but I've never had good luck using a rabbeting bit in walnut. Probably a combination of user error and the quality of the bit. So I did order a new bit, and I've got one that has the multiple bearing sizes that I can use. So I'm going to take advantage of that just because I am so weary of this. I'm going to start with one of the larger diameter bearings halfway up the total height that I want to go. I'll make my first cut, then I'll go with a smaller bearing and a smaller bearing until I get where I want, and then raise it up to its full height and go through that same process again. I'm being a little overly cautious, but that's just because I've ruined pieces before where I get a big sliver of the wood just breaks out trying to use a rabbeting bit. So let's give it a shot. Did go pretty well. In fact, I'm really happy with how it went, except I made a mistake. I didn't even think about the location of my joinery in here, of my tenons. So I did cut into a couple of the tenons, well actually all of the tenons on the bottom, about halfway down on them and about 1/16 of an inch into them. Not the end of the world, there's still plenty of glue surface on the other sides, and when I put my bottom in here, it will all be re-glued anyway, but I'm really not happy that I didn't think about it. Otherwise, everything came out great. I still have to go and cut all the corners square for my bottom. I'll just chisel that out, and then I can actually get the bottom cut and fit. Getting close to the home stretch now. What I've got left to do is to build the top and of course install the top, get the hinges in and everything. I've got my pieces cut here. I spared you the milling footage. I feel like there's too much of that anyway. But I've got my pieces roughed out here. I do need to clean up the edges. So I wanted to mark them what's where first. So I need to clean up the edges at the joiner, and then I'll throw some biscuits in them and get some glue on it. And I've got a little bit of epoxy filling to do, but no big deal. Getting there. Okay, up next is the curve on the front. This I'm doing very similar to the other curves that are on the blanket chest. However, this one's a little bit backwards and it's an outside curve rather than an arch on the inside of it. Same process though. I've got a center line marked. I've got my 1-inch back marked on either side. And I'm just going to take my drawing bow, line it up with all of those marks. And take it over to the bandsaw. All right, so I'm finally done. And I mean finally. This one took me absolutely forever. I haven't had a lot of shop time lately. I've been traveling a lot for my day job, and I have also had a bunch of other things to do. It's that time of year where, you know, I'm working outside and things. So I appreciate you sticking with me on this one. This one took a while, but I'm glad it's finally done. I love how it came out. I'm thrilled with these panels. They kind of, and this one kind of looks like squinty eyes to me, and that's all I see when I look at it. But I'm absolutely thrilled with it. The way the curves compared to kind of the everything else being a little bit boxy and square, this curve across the top works out perfect for a handle like I was hoping it would. The color on it is a little bit darker than I was expecting, but again, I'm really happy with it. So I appreciate you sticking with me on these videos if you have. But either way, I hope you got something out of it, and I hope to see you on the next one, which who knows how long that one will take. But thanks for watching. I really appreciate it. Hopefully I'll see you in the next one.